it's not enough to study a map, to enlarge it or reduce it. You must be able to know, based on the features that are present in the map, the activities that this map would encourage, or the activities that the features found in this map would encourage. Now let's look at this. Land use. This refers to the various ways in which man uses land. The use of land and the function of any settlement can be determined by the conventional signs. For example, the presence of river will mean that the settlement will be important for activities like fishing, recreation, and also a veritable means for transportation. A table is given here showing features from conventional signs on the map and corresponding land use or function of the settlement. Number one, if we have the presence of buildings, for example, houses, what does that mean? It means that there is a residential function in that part of the map. Presence of minerals like limestone, crude oil, etc. will encourage mining activities. Presence of forest will encourage farming and lumbering activities. So, also presence of prisons, courts, police stations, etc. They are all meant for administrative functions or purposes. How about if we have presence of banks and markets? That is a pointer to the fact that commercial activities will take place in that part of the area of the map. Now, if we also have presence of hotel or stadia, that means social functions will be, encouraged. And if we have presence of hospitals, means we have health functions. And finally, we have presence of industries in the map. That tells us that that region or that area covered in the map will have or be playing industrial functions. Now, let's talk about transportation. Often we hear about transportation. People moving from one place to another, maybe themselves, maybe conveying goods or other materials. Now, transportation means the movement of people, goods, and commodities from one place to another. This could be by land, it could be by water, or by air. So that gives us three types of transportation. One, we have transportation by land. Two, we have transportation by water. And three, we have transportation by air. Let's talk about land transportation. Land transportation involves the movement of people, goods, from one place to another on land. Land transportation may be by road or by rail. Now, let's look a little more into road transportation. Road transportation involves the use of motor cars, lorries, trucks, etc. to move people and goods as well from one place to another. It is the most common means of transportation. and it has the following advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages here of road transportation is that it is most common means of transportation. Another advantage is that it offers door-to-door services. That is to say that by road transportation, your goods and including yourself can be moved from even your house to the next village or to the next location or the next place. But that is not possible with transportation by air or by sea. You can only be transported to an airport or to a shore. That is if you're talking about transportation by air and water respectively. But the advantage that transportation by land or by road has here is that it offers door-to-door services. And it also fits other means of transportation like rail and air. Before you get to the airport, you must be transported by road to the airport, or you must be transported also by road to the rail station. That's the advantage it has. Now let's consider its disadvantages. What disadvantage or disadvantages does transportation by road have? 1. Roads are expensive to construct and maintain. 2. Roads are prone to accidents. 3. Rampant occurrences of road failure. Especially in our country, Nigeria, nearly every road constructed experiences failure within a very short period of time after construction. I will begin to wonder if this could be due to inadequate geotechnical assessment of the sites through which the road will pass, or it is as a result of poor construction materials or inefficient contractors. But all these things put together brings about road failure in Nigeria, for example. So, on a personal basis, if I'm asked who to blame in this case, I think all these professionals are to blame. To bring, at times, the contractors will fail to bring in the contribution of the engineering geologist for site investigations. At times, because of bribery, corruption, which has climaxed in the country, some may begin to use substandard products or materials. So these are all responsible for rampant occurrences of road failure in the country. Another disadvantage is that it is limited goods and passengers are carried on roads. Okay, now let's talk about rail transportation. We'll also look at the advantages and also its disadvantages. Rail transportation involves, or it is the slowest and cheapest means of transportation by land. And rail transportation consists of a locomotive and coaches. We're talking about the train. An advantage of road transportation is that it is most convenient in carrying bulky goods, which is not the case in road transportation. It is very cheap and relatively safe to travel with. Now, its disadvantages are: 1, the high cost of construction and maintenance, and it's very slow, and there is this constant stopping in each station and this wastes so much time. Now, water transportation. Water transportation involves the use of water bodies such as lakes, rivers, oceans, etc. to convey or to move people and goods from one place to another using canoes, boats, ships, etc. Water transportation is divided into inland and ocean navigation. What do we mean by inland navigation? Inland navigation is simply waterways. Now, it involves the transportation by rivers, lakes, etc. Moving people and goods from one place to another within a given country using boats and canoes, etc. The advantages are that it is very cheap. But the following disadvantages also can be found or can be associated with inland transportation. 1. The change in volume of water affects inland transportation. If you can recall when we talked about characteristics of rivers in Nigeria, we have constant change in volume of water. From one season to another, the volume changes. So when these changes occur, inland transportation is greatly affected. So that's a disadvantage. And also, rivers sometimes flow into areas of limited commercial activities. That's a disadvantage. When the rivers flow into such areas, people tend to be limited because commercial activities in a particular place encourages influx of people. So if people realize that the direction or the flow of a river is to areas where these activities are not encouraged, they are likely not to follow such path or such route. So that is a disadvantage because we cannot control the direction of flow now of the water. We follow it just the way it's going, and that's how our journey, our movement goes to. So if it is going to a direction that is not favorable, and that automatically means we ain't going there. So that is a disadvantage also. So now let's look at ocean navigation. We earlier said that we are going